I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you would stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everyone. Again, there's some seats up front, there's seats upstairs if anybody would like to come in. And welcome everyone who is watching from home. So Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVore?
Present.
Trustee Gett?
Present.
Trustee Kazam?
Present.
Trustee Goff?
Present.
Trustee Wigginton? Trustee Weisenberg?
Present.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Next is approval of the Board of Trustees minutes from July 18th, 2023. I'd ask for a motion to approve.
Make the motion.
Second.
Second.
Been moved and approved to approve the minutes. All those, are there any questions or corrections of the minutes? I'm sorry. Any questions? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, those are approved. We do have one bit of correspondence.
I have a letter here, some correspondence from a group of people who all mention at the end. It says, "Good evening, Mayor and esteemed Board of Trustees. I write to you today as a concerned citizen of Peoria Heights, firmly opposing the planned contract with the City of Peoria. It is my belief that we must prioritize resolving the pressing issues within our own fire department before allocating resources to support another city. Our local firefighters have consistently demonstrated unwavering dedication to ensuring the safety and well-being of our community. They have rightfully requested additional resources to bring our fire department up to par with neighboring departments. However, the proposed contract with Peoria falls short in addressing these vital concerns, leaving our department inadequately funded and ill-prepared to handle potential emergencies. While collaboration and mutual aid with neighboring cities are essential for a strong emergency response network, it should not come at the expense of neglecting the needs of our own citizens. Redirecting funds to Peoria without ensuring our fire department's proper funding and positioning would be detrimental to the safety and security of Peoria Heights residents. I humbly urge each of you to thoughtfully reconsider this contract proposal and prioritize the well-being of our own community. Let us work together to empower and fortify our fire department, enabling them to continue serving us with utmost efficiency and effectiveness. Thank you for your valuable time and consideration by making the right decision for Peoria Heights. Sincerely, Jennifer Ballard, Ariane Brooks, Dwayne Coupler, Duana Simpkins, Christina Workman, Jenny Lewis, Kathy Deck, Becky Kelton, Mary Bear, Deborah Rainey, Galen Lohman, Tracy and Rodney Ferreras, and Howard and Crystal Love.
Okay, we'll be at comments from the audience. If you'd like to address the board tonight, please come forward to the podium. And if you'd give your name and address and try and keep your remarks at 5 minutes. Oh, Chief?
Greg Walters, 800 East Toledo. Mayor Phelan, Village Board of Trustees, this political wrangling over your fire department has to stop. A few of you who are to make major decisions for this village, I'm afraid, know very little about your subject, or the impact your decision will have, or the ramifications it will bring. You have been misled and ill-advised if you believe this is for the greater good of this community. This whole mess centered around your fire department reeks of small-town politics, and frankly, it's embarrassing. You don't know how fire departments operate, or what their job functions are, or the differences between career and volunteers, or the problems each face on a daily basis. You've not bothered to ask. You don't know the history, the sacrifices that have been made by the members of the PHFD and their families, past and present, to ensure that you and your families are safe. Regardless of what you've been told or led to believe, you are not in jeopardy, any more than residents in Peoria Heights may have been at any time during the past 106 years that PHFD has been in existence. It's true that times are changing. So are the needs of your citizens. This impacts your fire department. Help your fire department address those needs instead of trying to destroy them. Find out their perspective and work with them, not against them. If this proposed hybrid fire response contract passes, I fear that the implementation of that contract is doomed to fail, and you will be back to square one again. The relationship between PHFD and PFD has been a contentious one at times. This is due in part to the division between career and volunteer firefighters. This division has been around for decades, way before you and I were born. Both sides are heavily indoctrinated in this, and both sides believe they're right. It has led to mistrust and animosity on both sides. And it is not just a local thing, but it is nationwide. And it is deeply ingrained in Peoria County. And there is nothing you can do about it. Better people have tried and failed. In recent years, PHFD and PFD have worked together at numerous incidents, either on a MABUS response or individual mutual aid request, without any outward signs of hostility. Keep in mind, these were short-term events. Even so, the underlying mistrust was palpable. Force these departments into this hybrid response, day in and day out, they won't work well together. You will have major problems. I am sure this human factor is not something even considered or identified as an issue when this proposal was first developed and considered. Having been closely associated with both sides during my career, 28 and a half years with Peoria Fire Department, I retired as an assistant chief. I've been affiliated with the Peoria Heights Fire Department in numerous ways for 33 years, the last 8 as fire chief. I have a very unique perspective on this, and that is, it's inevitable that someone from either side will make a comment or statement that will incite the other, and you will have major issues to deal with. Not good for either community. Please heed my warning. This is a real issue. If this proposal passes, it will only serve to intensify the problem. That being said, I respectfully ask trustees Wigington, Goff, and Kazam to please reconsider your position on this and reject this proposal, as it will cause more harm than good. Please, talk to your fire department, explore the other options presented to you by Trustee Weisenberg, and move forward in the right direction. Instead of spending our tax money to contract to an outside agency, funnel that money to your own fire department where it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who'd like to be next? Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Ray Lockhart, 722 East Marietta, and that's a hard act to follow. He more or less said everything I wanted to say, other than I did want to point out, when this little catchphrase came up of safety of residents, it all arose out of Chief Stollenberger's presentation, of which was glowing, obviously for the right reasons. He wants our money. But nobody ever asked, how many incidents of non-safety have we ever encountered? I challenge anybody to produce the work and show that we've had incidents of residents not being safe. I do not believe it's a fact. And besides that, never once out of all these forums have we asked our own fire department to get up and give a presentation and tell us what they see, what they feel, their facts and their figures, so we can compare apples to apples. Right now, all we have is one side of the story. And Mayor Phelan, I'm sorry to put you on the line, but a comment was attributed to you in one of the emails that you looked at us and no longer fear the parochialism of your constituents. Would you care to elaborate and tell us exactly what you meant by that?
That was nothing that I said, sir. You'd have to show me the email, but that's not even the way.
Well, I happen to have it.
Someone else may have said it, but I didn't.
Can somebody take that up to him? Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I cede to the next speaker. Not much more to say.
I'll speak.
Go ahead, Jody, it's all yours.
Just before we go on, just for the record, Mr. Lockhart, none of these emails are from me. They're from other people. I never said that.
Well, you probably need to contact whoever quoted you and attributed that statement to you. It's in writing at the meeting that Chuck Graham was having.
All right, I think it came from Mr. Grea, but I never had any email contact with Mr. Grea. But anyway,
I'm not saying you contacted him. I'm just saying somebody said these words came from your mouth.
no, they did not.
If
But
you deny them, that's fine, but in denying, you probably should talk to them and say, please don't put words in my mouth.
all right, thank you. For the record here tonight, I never said that, but okay.
Can we?
Go ahead, Mary.
Claim the time for the speakers, just because the Open Meetings Act does forbid response actually from the body, I believe.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't say that again, please.
If we could reclaim the time of the back and forth for the speakers, because I do believe the Open Meetings Act forbids response from the body during public comment time.
Technically, you're right. I mean, we want to try and answer questions that are here tonight. This is really not, it's not a dialogue. It's the opportunity for you all to give your points of view to the board here tonight. So we're intently listening. Thank you so much for saying that. We're not going to try to get into a debate, but we want to listen to what you have to say. Thank you. Go ahead, Mary.
Mary Bear, 5016 North Clarendon, Peoria Heights, Illinois. I do have something written. I can't say it a whole lot better than Greg did, but however, I do have a copy of the email. The Peoria Fire Chief Sean Solberger on June 13th to Councilman Graham. Good afternoon. All points that you bring up 100% support. I am working diligently on my end to come up with a system that would favor the city of Peoria ultimately. Not us, the city of Peoria, and still be able to provide the level of protection surrounding communities if they ask for it. I would love to talk to you face to face, possibly this week. Councilman Graham, on June 26th, to Chief Sollenberger, Chief, after this, West Peoria and Bartonville. After they get us, West Peoria and Bartonville, we need to count 13 Peoria stations and 5 men on the rescue squad on Florence. Heights Mayor Phelan no longer feels that he needs to fear the much diminished parochialism in this great village. He is a forward-looking mayor. The dynamics were unfavorable 18 months ago. Meanwhile, West Peoria is playing literally with fire. What will it take to shake off their medieval parochialism seriously? Okay, you didn't say it. I'm not saying you said it. They said it on paper. After they get us, they want to take West Peoria and Bartonville. And truthfully, I had to look up the definition of parochialism. There's several things, but the most important is narrow-minded. None of it is good. It's all detrimental. So that's on that email that they have written back and forth to themselves, and that's certainly not very professional. You don't write something like this and expect somebody not to be able to see it. It's very condescending to everyone in Peoria Heights. Also, the 4 people that voted no, Trustee Wigington is not here tonight, Trustee Goff, the mayor, and Trustee Kazan. Just as a comment, I would like to know, or just throw it out there, if they even, I know Mark does, they know where the boundaries of Peoria Heights is. I'd like to know if they know where Galena Road ends, Humboldt, Grandview Drive. How do they know a 4-minute response? You're taking Chief Stolberger's answer to that. Friday, Peoria had a working house fire on Ergo. They lost 2 more houses. They have a brand new station on Western, about 2 blocks away. They have a station down on Southeast Jefferson. And I'm sure they made a good response time, and they lost the houses, both of them. So it's not always response time. And all we're hearing is response time, and safety, and they lost 2 more houses. So it's not always about response time. The other thing I'm going to bring up, and I'm sure somebody else will too, in 1964, they annexed Richwoods Township into Peoria. The vote was close. We lost Richwoods High School. And after that, they thumbed their noses at us and said, here's bus passes, go to Woodruff. And we paid for Richwoods High School for the next 20 years. It could never use it. So if for some reason you think Peoria is our friend, you're sadly mistaken.
Jody Ford, 4004 North Illinois. She said you guys can't respond, but just to put on record, I'm curious, Mayor, you said that you were approached by a majority of the board recently to go to Peoria to discuss this, but yet most board members I have talked to never asked for anybody to talk to Peoria, so I was just kind of curious.
That didn't happen. That was through the administrator several years ago. Just to answer your question, set the record straight, we'd have to look at the minutes when that board meeting occurred, but he was asked to approach the city of Peoria to see what a relationship could look like for fire service.
If I can interject, she means after Chief Thompson's resignation.
Yes.
Oh.
Who asked us
Yes.
to do it again.
No.
For the record, I did not ask the village administration to talk to Peoria.
Board members asked, but I can't recall if it was a majority, and I think they asked the administrator.
Can we get the names of those folks?
Yeah.
Who asked that?
That would be great.
I don't recall how that, do you, Dustin, recall how that?
I believe it was trustee Wigington. It could have also been trustee DeVore at the time, wanting to explore all avenues, and this is not the first time this has happened, so, and it only takes one trustee, two trustees to request something, and that is what I did.
Okay.
Matt's not here.
Yeah.
Trustee DeVore, did you ask?
I don't remember specifically asking that. I will put on the record, I did go to administration to make a complaint about our fire department. My husband spent a lot of time in this industry, and I have a lot of friends. Some people had came to me and told me that our firemen were refusing to ride with AMT, okay? I then sent a text message asking if that was still Peoria, if it was still our policy that if AMT requests a ride along, is it our policy that our firemen ride along, okay? Then finding out like that is still our policy, I then had a meeting with administration talking about how we move forward, because in my opinion, I did not want to do anything that was gonna cause a delay of care. So I had felt at the time that by our firemen not riding with AMT when they requested it, that caused a delay of care. So I would say that some of this was triggered by me having the complaint against our fire department. I don't think that when I made that complaint, my goal was ever to cease this fire department. From the very first second I have been elected into this position, I have fought for this department. I mean, Chief Walters can tell you, like, I met with him my first week in this position, so that was never my intention. However, I do feel like I made a chief complaint about it. I know at that time it was talked about, like, we need to look at our options, because then the very next day, we lost a fire chief, like, so I knew that there was going to be talk with Peoria, but I don't feel like I asked for there to be talk with Peoria.
Thank you.
I don't want to blur the lines, trustee DeVore. You're exactly right. You did not, and it did start with the complaint, but just because you asked me to look at the options, I'm not saying that you supported that option.
Sure.
That isn't what you asked. So you're right. You've been consistent throughout. So I mean, on record, I'll say that. But you asked me for A, B, and C, and that's what I did. And I was also asked that from trustee Wigington. It could have been, I'm not sure if trustee Gazam asked me that or not, but I do know I was asked that, got you the facts.
Yes.
And that's when we move forward. And I also brought this up at our last meeting we had. I said, let's not forget how we got here, and I actually outlined the timeline, exactly how this transpired. And this is not a new topic, this is an old topic. This is the fourth time we've been through this. So, for the most part, most of the board should know how this works as far as the options, because they've been through it already. Now, there are a couple that have not, so anyway, but I wanted to clarify it. I'm not saying that you ever supported that. You were asked for options, that's what I got you again for the fourth time. And I gave it to you and put it in your lap to move forward. So that's.
So, Jody, you got the floor. Go ahead, but just to set the record straight, the administrator works for all of us. So one person might ask the administrator to look into something. That's how things occur.
My last thing is, everybody that's voting for Peoria, they just had firemen that were recently injured from exhaustion. Maybe you should ask Peoria why. They want to take over Peoria, but they didn't, or Peoria Heights, but their firemen were hurt because they don't have enough staff to staff their own fires.
My name's Heather McMeekin at 3820 North Monroe. This is a picture of me. I'm a former paramedic and EMS instructor. Spent 10 years training first responders, working as a paramedic and as an emergency room technician. And we identified a problem of volunteers struggling to keep up their training and their hours and support back in the 90s. So we developed a statewide satellite TV show, and ICC and other universities or colleges and universities were our downstate. So I'm approaching this as a person who's new to your area. I'm newly retired, but I do absolutely stand with first responders. So I want to let you know, first responders are a public good in the community. And I think that has been lost in the discussion. And it's not just that they respond to when the alarm goes off. They are out in the community getting to know their neighbors and their people. When they see a problem, they will point it out before it becomes an expensive or dangerous problem. They are good-hearted people who walk a very hard path. To be a first responder means you witness trauma. You take on trauma. Their lives will be shortened because of what they're exposed to. Their families lose their time with them because it takes time for them to recover. Now, when we identified so many needs around the state, what we learned back then was that most of the communities didn't understand how hard it was for the volunteers to both deal with the trauma of the job, the physical demands of the job, the psychological, the funding that it takes. I found out that you don't even cover them when they're driving there. That's absurd. And then you want them to hop in a vehicle and have somebody else drive to go pick them up at the hospital as volunteers. That's an unfair ask. And I wonder why that discussion wasn't brought up with them before going to Peoria. That seems very odd to me. They get to identify mutual aid needs, and as a paramedic, I didn't know everybody in the community. We were out in the counties that we served, so I always had to rely on the first responders who lived in that community, because when I would get there, I'd know nothing about most of those patients, but they did. And I didn't know anything about their families, who were often distraught and distracted, and often that makes people unsafe. They can wander out into traffic, or they can trip over something and get hurt. But our first responder teams understand how to work those things. That is not an easy path. If some of you have never ever worked at an emergency, then you may not understand truly how disrespectful and really a cruelty to just not even let them have their say before going to someone else. I think that could have been handled very differently. I hope in the future things will. There are ways to increase volunteerism, and I haven't seen any evidence that any of that has been undertaken here. All the beginning from making sure that they are covered when they are driving to something, so that they aren't taking on all the financial, economic risk and burden for them and their families. That is quite unfair and needs to change. Also, it's not the job of the volunteer agency to get more volunteers. You are the village trustees. Your leadership speaking to the broader consensus is who is supposed to bring volunteers to them. They do the training. They support them when they're heartbroken and traumatized and living with PTSD, as so many of us do. Your job is to uplift them, support them, let them know how valued they are. They're a public good. Did you know that first responders are the last profession that is seen as universally trustworthy, ethical, moral? Not cops. First responders. When they are out in the community wearing their shirts and such, our children see that, and they see what it means to truly be a public servant, not for the money, although compensation is needed because they can't work while they're volunteering. So it'd be good if their family had something to cover for that, because not everybody can live on Grandview Drive. The last thing I will say, and I'm going to speak to the volunteers here, do not let disrespect and disloyalty and ignorance about what you do diminish you. We all know what you all are. right? Stay in it. Don't let the short-sightedness negatively affect you and your pride in what you do. We need you. Every community needs these volunteers. There were times as a medic that I couldn't tell the difference. Is this person, well, they seem like they might have dementia. No, she is normally clear as a tack. This is new for her, and then I'd realize this is a medical emergency and not an everyday slip. They are able to tell medics in this community the reality of the context around these calls, and they are there after the ambulance leaves to comfort the family while you're all asleep in your beds.
Stephanie Crawford, 905 East Division Avenue, Peoria Heights. In short, I oppose contracting with Peoria for fire services. I feel like that's kind of obvious now, right? But simply saying that doesn't adequately express my opposition to the proposed plan. It seems like right now there is an idea from some board members that small town equals small-minded and unintelligent, and that's simply not true, as you can see by the show out here. As an executive director for a statewide nonprofit, I choose to live in this town. I don't have to live here. I choose it. The same with my husband and I and our small business that we've chosen to locate in the village. We chose that partially because of the sense of community that we felt when we grew up here, but also because of the services that the village provided. We knew that we would have schools, a library, water, fire department, police, at the time, EMT. That's been taken away, and now we find that the same thing is on the block with the fire department. If I wanted to live in Peoria and have Peoria services, I would have moved to Peoria. The same thing with our business. It actually was in Peoria. We would have stayed in Peoria. We made the choice to move to Peoria Heights. The absolute lack of transparency in this process and the dismissal of actual community voices is infuriating. Why wouldn't we explore an option that would invest in our own services? Why would we buy services from a larger community who has in recent years been shutting down firehouses and has a pension deficit? When the proposed services are discussed, it very conveniently reads as if it will cost less than we're currently paying. However, it's an additional cost that almost doubles it in the first year because we don't know what the actual costs are after that first $307,000. Exactly. Why was the Peoria Heights Fire Department not given an opportunity to present during that exploratory meeting? Why was the first our community heard about this meeting scheduled at 1 p.m. during a weekday? Why was that meeting on June 27th and 3 weeks after that a vote decides it with no community input when clearly there was trustee opposition? What are the actual complaints about the fire department service? I could be wrong, but didn't the Peoria Heights Fire Department recently receive an award for their service in assisting another community? And truly, after seeing the insulting manner with which the Peoria mayor and the Peoria fire chief discussed the village and its residents, I am unsure how any person claiming to want the best for the village thinks that contracting with Peoria is it. It seems that recently, several serving the village have an attitude that everything is better if it comes from Peoria. I assumed that people serving on the village governmental roles wanted to support and strengthen our community, not sell us to Peoria. Thank you.
My name is Mary Phillips. I live at 5199 North Prospect Road for the last 5.5 years. I am a product of this village. I chose to come back here after 35 years. For 35 years, I was up by Chicago working at 3 different public institutions of higher education, helping students learn to be involved citizens. And there are many, many ways to do that. I so appreciate the service, not only of you, but all the other people who serve on the boards and commissions of this village. And I am ever appreciative of all the time and effort you put in to serve our needs. However, at the last couple of meetings, I've been very concerned that you are being misled. You are not being given all the information you need to make a fully informed choice. I can't say anything better than the speakers before me, other than to say, as a product of this village, I am so proud to live here again. Please do not let one vote tear apart everything that has been built by the citizens over decades to make this place such a special place to live. Please have a full, open, transparent discussion about this issue. Utilize all this energy to help our fire department be what it needs to be. We need more volunteers to serve as firefighters. We also obviously need more volunteers to support their work. Thank you.
Hi there. My name's Terry Simpkins. Live on 1212 Scioto. Have been there for 50 years. Been in the Heights for 71 years. And the biggest thing, I was at that last meeting that we attended, and I seen some things that didn't settle right with me. And number one, there was 3 other options that could have been brought up that didn't get brought up in front of the board. Instead, we went straight to some sort of a vote about Peoria not taking over, but coming in to the village of Peoria Heights. I'm going to make it real short, but it's in my heart, and that's that I don't want to invest in the city of Peoria's fire department. I want to invest in the village of Peoria Heights' fire department, and I'll tell you why. I got a little tattoo here. It says 4/7/13. That was the day that I died 3 times. And thank God, Peoria Heights Volunteer Fire Department and other medical people let me come here tonight. Thank you very much.
Alexis Kazam, 4831 North Grandview Drive. I do agree with the gentleman that just came before me about investing in services of Peoria Heights. My question is only economical, because it's also difficult, I believe, for the Heights trustee board to be in a position to make a decision based on safety of the residents and fire response, right? My question is, if everyone's willing to invest in this, we need to have a proper budget that pays for some volunteers and some mostly full-time. The question is, hold on. The question is everyone willing to support it, to me, in a tax? Everyone needs to be taxed to have it. So my statement is that in order to do this, that needs to be assessed, and that's a problem right now. To me, if everyone is willing to pay for it.
Are we running a surplus, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
We don't need a tax.
We do. It's a public service. To me, that's the question that needs to be answered. So, anyway, I just want to make that statement because I have a feeling that, it comes down to a tax issue. So everyone needs to chip in and pay for it.
Okay, who's next?
Norm Reichert, 5016 Glen Elm Drive. I got a couple things. I wish the board would put as much effort into getting rid of the fire department as they could to fixing the water problems. You guys seem to ignore the water problems, and with Peoria coming up here and hooking to the hydrants, they don't care. They're used to city water, which is no problem. They're going to suck them hydrants right out of the ground. They're going to break mains. The people are going to be worse off then than what they are now with brown water. Everybody in the Heights complains about brown water, and you guys just ignore it like it's going to go away. 25 years ago, when I was on the fire department, we were told the only hydrant we could use to train on was at the base of the tower on Toledo, right, Mark? Because every time we'd hook to a hydrant someplace, a main would break. So that was the only one that we could use. And nothing's changed. In 25 years, nothing's changed. And I'm a 27-year member of the Peoria Heights Fire Department, the last 12 as chief. I can't tell you the number of people, assistant chiefs that I carried to their grave. You people make me sick. You make me sick when I hear this stuff. And we had to clean house once before. I served under one of the most brutal administrations that there ever was, as far as I'm concerned. I had to scrape for everything I got. It was a fight every damn meeting. And we finally got together and cleaned house. And I guess we're going to have to get together and do it again.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Talk about numbers. There's more than 60 people. Just saying. I am a small business owner. My name is Jeanette Gruber. I go by Jay. I'm Jay Gruber. 3814 North Monroe. We bought the old book bindery and we rehabbed it. I hope you love it when you drive by. Have an amazing husband, and you saw our plans. I want to say how great it is to be a part of Peoria Heights, and I have had my business here since approximately 2003. We actually looked for 8 years to find a place to buy, and we have a plan to stay, and that's how it is. I want to say I love the services, but I don't want to outsource them. I think we need to pay volunteers. We need to have some professional support. I'm not quite sure, but I know that I don't like the way this was done. It was undemocratic, the way it was done. I know there was a vote, but this many people are now mad because we didn't have a say in a way that we could easily find out about it. Most of the people I've met and talked to, we all learned about it on the news. So I would like to have sunshine. I want to see the contract. I want to know what was going on and why we were sort of pushed into something where we will have to pay a lot more and get less personal service. So that's backwards to me, and I would share as a CPA, that's not good governance, and I am very hopeful. I do not need new people. I want new decisions that are more supportive of the essence of Peoria Heights. Thank you so much. You guys do a good job mostly.
Anyone else? Again, there's more. Yes, Dalton. There's more, chairs up front. There's chairs up stairs if anyone wants to sit down. Get you next.
Oh yeah, keep going first.
Okay.
Hello everyone, I'm Adam Painter and I represent my family. We live at 1107 East Peoria Avenue. Unlike a lot of people here, we haven't lived here for very long. We've only been here for less than 7 years, and we've been very fortunate we haven't needed any emergency services. However, we have worked with the fire department and volunteer roles to help out with our community for trunk or treat events, Easter egg events, to bring some happiness to our world. We've enjoyed working with them. They've been great people. And recently we've actually seen a fire reaction in action. Just down the street from us at the 1212 Peoria Apartments on Friday, they had a fire alarm go off. It went off at 7:42, they were dispatched at 7:44, and they were on site by 7:47. We're fortunate it was just a false alarm, but it could very well have been the opposite. Fires take fast, quickly, people die. I think a really quick response time by somebody local is incredibly vital to our safety. More importantly, we're also going to have to pay for this somewhere. I'd like our money to go into our community, not outside of the community. So I appreciate your time and effort. Thank you very much.
I'm not a speaker, so you'll have to bear with me if I mess up some words here. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Dalton Carlson. I live at 5133 North Montclair. I also currently serve as one of the assistant chiefs on the Peoria Heights Fire Department. I'm not here today to talk about my disinterest in sending money outside of the village instead of supporting our fire department. I think there's been plenty of speakers before me that were able to carry that torch pretty well. I'm here to talk as a citizen. So I've been here as part of the Heights since June of 2012. Was finally able to purchase my own house in the Heights in 2013. I've been here about 10, 11 years, and you'll have to forgive me, public school math doesn't do me too well. I've seen a great many things happen here in the village in my time. I've seen 2 mayors, I've seen 3 fire chiefs, 3 public works directors, 2 administrators, close to 10 changes in trustees that represent the fine citizens of the village. I've seen us grow and prosper. The business district has been revitalized, new developments have become more and more abundant, the tourism industry is starting to grow, and the village has reversed its deficit into an almost $10 million surplus. Some things to be proud of. This would seem to be the place to be if you're a homeowner or business owner based on what I've said. Unfortunately, in the same years I've been here, I've found that everything is not as it appears to be. I've seen the village's ambulance service that's been around since the days of funeral homes carrying patients to the hospital shut down. I've been through 3 different instances where the administration has tried to outsource our fire department in some way, shape, or form to the city. I've seen the quality of the water system slowly degrade to the point where we almost rival Flint, Michigan now. And I've seen a police department that has begun to lose the public's trust to be fair, impartial, and protective. But I can spout this all day. The real question is, what's the source of the issue? Who's actually to blame for this? There's some that would have you point fingers at the rank and file. People like me, people like the police officers who risk their lives every day to work on the street and protect us. The public works and waterworks employees who do their best to keep the infrastructure going. The firefighters who serve with me, some of whom are standing right outside that door because they wanted to give room for the public, who volunteer time out of their lives to keep our village safe. Many others would point the fingers at those who lead. A mayor who seems to have more interest in his and his family's political ambitions to the point where he'd try to backdoor politics city services away. The Board of Trustees, where some seem to have forgotten that their purpose is to act with the purpose of the citizens in mind, not themselves. Or a police chief who also serves as the administrator, whose temperament is so volatile that no one really wants to speak out against him. No one wants to speak up. Personally, I blame myself. I think we all pay a little bit of the blame here. Not because we're incapable of doing our jobs, not because we're unintelligent, not because of any other factors, but because throughout the years, a lot of people have forgotten that the government exists to serve and represent the people, not to serve the government. I can't speak for everyone, obviously. I can speak for myself. I've remained silent and allowed a lot of this to occur. Not out of ignorance, not out of fear, but apathy. I lost my desire to stand up for our founding principles and to make sure that those that represent us serve us and not themselves. So there's a Latin phrase that comes to mind here, acta non verba. I'm not a lawyer. I'm sure the lawyers know a little bit more Latin than I do, but the rough translation here is deeds, not words. There's another phrase that comes to mind as well, which is one of the reasons why I'm standing up here. Fortune favors the bold. My hope is that this speech and my boldness to stand against the status quo shows my deeds to break away from the apathy and to help take an active role in bettering the community. I would also hope that this inspires others as well as other generations to come to stand up and do the same. We can't allow these events to continue as is, because if they do, they're slowly going to erode the village's identity away piece by piece till we're no longer a village. We're just a suburb of the city. I'll take that back. We wouldn't be a suburb then. We'd just be another neighborhood in the city. So if none of this has done anything to move you, I've got one last quote to try to shed some light here. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right and their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. These words were written over 240 years ago. They still hold value today. We need to think about how that shapes how we're doing things here in the village. Some people have talked about draining the swamp. There's your first steps. Thank you for your time.
Mike Wu, 318 Roseland, Peoria Heights. I just retired about a year ago off the fire department. 28 years of proud service to this village. A few up here really honored me by making your deputy chief. My assignment was during the day. All right. You know what I was hoping? In 19, when you decided not to support your own fire department, I was hoping you'd make a decision favorable to the fire department before I left. I suffered burnout. Too many calls by yourself, not enough manpower, and after 3 years, you just say, enough's enough. You're 70 years old, you just can't do it. You know, if you're 30 years younger, like at 40, you might have been able to do it. But it was an honor to serve this village in that capacity. It was an honor to be up here every day with the doors open, greeting people, talking to people, and serving the public. I just would like to conclude with that.
Next.
Let me just start by saying I'm not from the Heights. Eileen Casebeer. I live in Springfield now. My mother, my sister, my niece, and her son live at 1513 East Kelly. My family has been in Peoria Heights since 1903. I have no firefighter experience. I have nothing but good things to say about the people that I went to school with, a lot of them, and their children who are volunteer fire departments. My question is, why was this not brought to a vote? I know there was a motion, I watched the videos, thank you, YouTube. Why was this not brought to the people and asked their opinion? These are your constituents. They should be the final say on what gets voted, what stays, what goes, what gets taxed. Put that on a referendum, put that on a vote. One other question was, I understand Brandon's plan, Trustee Weisenberg, sorry, and Trustee Whittington's plan. I question the fact that, to me as a layperson, it seems that to start off, Trustee Weisenberg's plan would have been a good start. Give it a shot. It costs less money. It gives you full-time full-time or part-time fire department. It lays the groundwork to see if such a plan will work. If it doesn't work out, then you can go to Whittington or whatever plan someone else comes up with. If there are additional plans that weren't mentioned, they should have been. It should have been across the board, complete transparency. I'll just finish with this because somebody asked me on Facebook, why do you care? Again, my mother's family, Herbstress, in case anyone's from St. Thomas, the 3 little houses across from St. Thomas, my mother was born in the middle one. My Uncle Charlie had served his life in Peoria Heights in many capacities. At various times, he has been village marshal, superintendent of streets, commissioner of public works, chief of police, waterworks employee, and a volunteer fire department, as I believe the rest of the boys have been. I no longer live in Peoria, but my heart and soul still live here. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could just clarify one thing. It wasn't technically Trustee Weisenberg's plan. I wish I was as smart enough as our fire department who developed that plan. But that was actually a needs assessment that the Peoria Heights Fire Department emailed me. I don't understand why they weren't allowed to present that to the citizens of Peoria Heights, much like the fire department of Peoria was able to. But that was actually a plan developed by our fire department. That is what they wanted. That's what they've been asking for since 2019. So I was just fortunate enough to be able to bring that to the village board. But that was the most cost-effective option. The Cadillac option, if you will, was around $224,000 a year. And quickly to Mr. Kazam's comment, those plans were cheaper than what the plan for Peoria is going to be. The plan with Peoria involved, assuming the 2022 numbers hold out, would have topped our budget off at $714,000. The Cadillac plan that the Peoria Heights Fire Department emailed us but weren't allowed to present would only have cost $531,000. So when it comes to taxing, their plan is cheaper, and it addresses some concerns regarding response times and still leaves a comfortable budget to expand to what Peoria could ultimately cost us, if not more. So I think the Peoria Heights plan is the most cost-effective plan. The Peoria has $400 million in pension debt. They have a $36.5 million fire department. No one thinks that can be cheaper than what we can do here in-house. So you can make the argument on training, and maybe I'm...
I don't want to cut you off. We can talk about this when we get later in the meeting, but let's, if you don't mind, let's let this...
Sorry, Mayor.
No, that's okay. Any other speak? All right, go ahead.
My apologies, Mayor. I just wanted to kind of say that the fire department's plan was the most cost-effective one, and it was the one that started to address the issues that have been presented here to the village board about the question regarding the weakness in volunteerism sometimes. So I just think if we are going to be taxed, we might as well spend it here in the village of Peoria Heights. What I don't want to happen is my tax dollars go to the city of Peoria to fund their firefighters. I'll yield. I'm sorry.
Okay, who wants to be next?
Hi, I'm Floyd Wambacher. I live at 5300 North Glenelm Drive. And first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I appreciate all the hard work everybody in front of me over here does. That does not go unnoticed. To everybody out here who's spoken, it's been wonderful to hear your words of support for our village. I'm going to keep it real short. No contract has been decided on yet. You know, it's up for review right now. What I'm hoping out of our friends, our colleagues up here, take another look at what's being presented, because I think the stuff we were looking at, you know, the other couple times has come up. There was some viability in it, and, it was chosen at that time to work within that. Now, it seems like we've almost given up trying to find a solution to rein everything here in our village. And, to close out, just, guys, take another look at it. If things change, we find an absolute better solution than having to tie ourselves to Peoria, Illinois, with all of the issues that have been noted already and are pretty public knowledge. The better off we're going to be. Let's keep our problems here. Let's not make Peoria part of our problems. And I think with the smart group of folks in front of me, behind me, I think something could get done. So when it does come time that this ends up on the agenda to vote for whether we want to accept Peoria to be our saviors, for those who voted in support of that, take another hard look, because you've got a lot of people counting on you to make the right decision. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. James Thornton, 5819 North Galena Road. I'm going to try to keep all emotion out of this because my family's done a lot for the city. In fact, there was a proclamation done not too long ago for what they did, like buying the first 2 ambulances.
Can't hear you.
All right. I need to get shorter, apparently. The questions I've had since the afternoon meeting the other day and the time that you guys decided to go forward with this, I'm a business person. I work deals all the time. In fact, right now I'm working a deal that's $40 million. So there's questions I always ask before I get into those. The biggest thing I've heard is the 4-minute response time. So do we have documentation from the firefighters in Peoria Heights and the firefighters in Peoria about the time frames when the busiest times are? So if they conflict with each other, you gonna have a 4-minute response time? Or are they gonna have to bring firefighters out of Peoria from a secondary house and it's 8 to 10 minutes? I would expect that you guys should be able to pull an email request out, time-stamped between that 1 o'clock meeting and the day that you did this, so you could make an educated decision with true facts that they still will be able to get a 4-minute response time. When I do contracts, when you guys are doing a contract with the city, I think they put 90-some% of the time they're going to be under 4 minutes. Are you going to put into that contract that if they go over that 90-some% that was proposed to you guys, that the city cannot charge you for that call? And are you going to put a stipulation in there that if they go with so many calls that they don't make that 4-minute response time, you guys can automatically terminate the contract at any time that contract is in effect? Are those going to be into this contract when you do it? I have to do it all the time. I got people all the time that are putting stipulations that product has to be delivered on a certain time frame, or they don't have to pay for it. So it's the same thing here. I would have expected, though, that you guys should have emails stating the time frames from the city of Peoria Heights, our village, and the city of Peoria on their call volumes and which ones interact at what time. Because there's going to be a lot of times you're not going to have a 4-minute response time. So that was false statements made. That's really all I have. Thank you for your time.
In response to that, you can actually look Peoria's last response times for their own department inside their own city was 2020, and it was 7.5-minute response time within their own city. but they're going to give us 4.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Alexis, you've already spoken, sorry.
Mayor Phelan. Board, every one of you know who I am. About probably 90% of this room knows who I am. I had no intentions of speaking up here today, but in the last year, I've gotten very involved in our community. I'm sorry, my name is Jennifer Reichert. I live at 5028 Glen Elm Drive. It is the second residence that I've owned in the Heights. I grew up in the Heights. I work for the Heights School District. I am the tech director. I have volunteered in the community. I have worked up here for many years to videotape the meetings so that everybody can see. None of this is an easy decision. And Mayor Phelan, I think you'll agree with me. If Roger B. was here, he'd have been up in your office the first day he got wind. He'd have been up there talking to you. So I'm standing up here for him because for the 17 years that I have worked for that school district, he has fought for every inch of this village. Not even being a Peoria Heights resident, this was his home. He would have been up here, he'd have been the first person sitting in the chair to talk tonight, and at the last meeting, he would have been the last one here to talk to you at the end of it. He loved his community. He loved this. I love this community. I am volunteering my time for the 125th. My grandfather is the longest running firefighter in this city, ever. And if he was still here, if Bob Favorite was still here, if that generation was still here, they'd be up here fighting too, and that is the only reason I came out of the back of that room. Nobody wants to see Peoria firefighters leading the homecoming parade. Nobody wants to see Peoria answer a school at Peoria Heights School District. They want to see their alumni come. They want to see the people that they know. I have had them come to the school to help me, and there was nothing more comforting than looking up and seeing a face I knew come and help me when I have fallen through a ceiling at the work. If I thought that volunteering for the fire department today would save it, I'd already be on it. But I know the volunteerism is down, but we can make that change. We can go into the schools, we can bring on programs, we can advertise places. There are things that we can do. And if this were the police department or the waterworks, I'd be here too. I'd stand behind any person. I've gotten to know Trustee Kazam, Trustee Wigington. I went to school with Brandon and Sarah. I've known Jeff my whole life. I've known Mark. But I will tell you this. Not 1 second in this township, in this town, have I not felt safe. Have I not felt like this fire department or my police department can protect me. And one thing I want you to consider, I have 2 young children who are being raised in a house of firefighters and a house of police officers, a family of police and fire. And I want them I want to give them that chance to volunteer for the Peoria Heights Fire Department like their uncle, like their father, like their grandfather, like all of their families before them. And if you take away the volunteer fire department, they don't have that opportunity here. I want them to know where they come from. I want to know where their legacy is from. And I want them to grow up volunteering in their community. And if we take away that opportunity, they will not be able to. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next. Anyone else? Okay, public comment going once, twice. Comments from the audience are closed. Thank you all for being here. We be at old business. Any old business come for the board?
Mayor, I would like to discuss the vote that happened last meeting under old business, if I could.
Go ahead.
I just have a few comments that I've written down since I watched or listened to the public comments here. Almost, actually an hour of public comments. I'm pretty sure that's a record. At least since 2019. I don't think you've ever stood here for an hour of public comments. So I appreciate everyone who came out tonight. to give their input to the village board. I don't believe that Peoria Heights stands behind their fire department out of a medieval parochialism. I too had to look that word up. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But Charles does not speak for the village of Peoria Heights. He will not take Peoria Heights. He will not take West Peoria. He will not take Clarksville. But I would just like to take a moment to address some of the important matters from our previous meeting. Since the village board decided to contract with Peoria, I have been actively engaging with reporters, participating in many interviews, the media coverage, the articles, the social media. For an introvert, that is quite uncomfortable, I'll let you all know. But, you know, all these articles and all this attention has also caught the attention of the Peoria Heights citizens, and they're here tonight to express their views. In my discussion with the constituents, the overwhelming consensus is that they expect us to invest in our services, particularly in the fire department. To emphasize this public interest, I personally stood here last night at Tower Park and I collected over 120 signatures. Since then, it's grew to over 200. In really good election years, we have maybe 400 to 600 people show up to vote. I had 200 people who signed my petitions. That's an amazing show of interest here in the decisions we make. They took time out of their day during dinner time to show up and support our fire department. That level of engagement demonstrates that this community is paying close attention to the decisions we make here at this board. Presently, our fire department is operating with significantly less funding than other volunteer departments in the area. I think it's roughly about half. Critical assets such as training, continuing education, duty crews remain unfunded or underfunded. The contract with Peoria offers the village nothing new. We already get the support from Peoria. And does little to address the requirements of our community. Instead, it seems to export our wealth to the city of Peoria. One major concern, Mayor, that I had was the lack of opportunity given to the Peoria Fire Department to present their perspective. I think we have not been able to independently verify the information provided by Peoria Fire, but I think they provided our response averages as being 9 minutes, and I saw a post from the association that it's like 7 minutes. So we're not even getting the right information from the city of Peoria. It is unusual that only one voice, an unelected government body, had a chance to advocate for receiving hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars, but our fire department didn't have a presentation up on that screen. That is unusual to me. For as critical as I am of Peoria, I'm going to say something good about Peoria. Not even they would do that to their fire department. You know, it would not have happened. That Union 50 would never have let that happen. This situation raises questions, and it doesn't seem to align with the principles of fairness and transparency. I believe it is essential for us to consider all perspectives before making significant decisions for our community. And Mayor, I don't know where this fits in the agenda, but I do have a motion I need to make. It doesn't introduce any business we haven't discussed before, but it's regarding the decision we made last meeting. And I've read up on the Robert's Rules of Order, and I'm sure I can make this motion, but I didn't know if I should make it during miscellaneous business or old business.
Go ahead. If you have a motion, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor.
Just before I hear it, though, technically it has to be on the agenda unless you're making a motion that's relevant, but
right.
You can ask for a consensus, you can ask for information, but go ahead and let me hear your motion.
Correct. Thank you, Mayor. I move to rescind the previous board action approval of fire department option. And once I get a motion, I'll kind of discuss what I'm trying to do.
Well,
I second it.
that motion, that motion would have to come from, you're asking to reconsider?
No, not reconsider. A reconsider requires that I'm on the prevailing end of that vote. To rescind a vote or rescind previous board action does not require me to be on the prevailing end of that vote. I'm not asking to reconsider. I'm just asking to rescind, to undo that decision. And it doesn't mean we can't take it up again in the future, but it allows us time to get a presentation from the fire department. It allows us time to hire a fire chief and make informed decisions.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, you don't have to make that motion because we won't take any action. If you want the fire department to have a presentation, that can happen any time. And what I would say to you is, I think this is the first board that ever put the fire chief sitting up here. So we're, you know.
To that point, Mayor, that was what I'm next saying. Not that I don't like you, Wayne. Don't think I don't like you. But who removed the fire chief from the fire department from their seat at this table? I've been trying to understand that because if Chief Sutton is absent, we have the deputy chief that sets in. So we don't have a fire chief. But why has the fire chief why has the fire department lost their seat at the table?
I think you're reading more into that. We had a fire chief who resigned, and then we're in the process. I've got more interviews Thursday of candidates for fire chief. I intend to bring you a name soon.
I understand, but we have an assistant fire chief. So why does this is the fire department chief? So we've had a lot of, Mayor, we've had a lot of topics here in the last couple of days where I could have loved to have turned to our fire department and asked them questions. But Wayne is great with community development, not so much for fire. So I don't understand why the fire department, not necessarily the chief, why the fire department lost their spot here at the Board of Trustees table.
I think you are looking into that a little too much, Trustee Weisenberg. The conversation about removing the fire chief's nameplate started when Chief Thompson was still in place. And it was brought to him because he didn't, first of all, want to be up here to begin with. Wayne has a lot more to offer, especially everything we're going through right now with the water, as far as all the grants, all the consultant that we've hired. So he has a lot more at this point to say. It was nothing to. It wasn't being disparaging to the chief, but I also talked to him about that, and he was perfectly fine. He said, "I'll sit down there. I don't even need to be up here." Right. So I think you're looking a little.
Chief Thompson was an introvert too, and he did not want to sit up here and insist on it.
I appreciate that, but we haven't had any water discussion since Chief Thompson's resignation, but we've had a heck of a lot of fire discussion.
Well, he's also in charge of development. We've had a lot of that. So anyway.
Well, let's get back to your motion.
Okay.
We can put a presentation on the next agenda by the fire.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to rescind. I wish our attorney was here, but I believe I'm within the legal right to rescind the previous board action. I think if that way we start from a fresh slate, we get a presentation from our fire department, they talk to us about the response times, they talk to us about the needs of our community, because all we've heard from is Chief Solberger, who is completely not qualified to talk to us about the needs of Peoria Heights.
All right, we'll make your motion.
So I move to rescind the previous board action, approval of fire department option.
Second.
Okay. Okay, you've already spoken to the motion, so anyone else like to speak? No one else? Okay, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
No. Nay.
Trustee Goff?
Aye.
Yes.
And this will come to no surprise, but aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Thank you.
All right, so that passes. Do you have anything else on this subject? We'll put this on the agenda presentation from the fire department at the next meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other old business?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to make a comment. And with all due respect, I appreciate all of the comments and statements from people in the audience this evening. I know this is a very emotional topic, and I will say that everyone here is prioritizing safety. I think, with all due respect, Brandon, that was out of order. Mark isn't here tonight, and our other trustee, who is an attorney, also isn't here. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I believe that that was procedurally inaccurate, but if I'm wrong, I respect that. I also want to make a comment that I don't think there was a need to do this because we still have not contracted with Peoria. We are still waiting to hear the information from Peoria and also our own fire department. You know,
All right, come on.
Thank you. I also would like to comment that everyone up here chooses to live in the village of Peoria Heights, regardless of what street we live on. I've heard a lot of things tonight, and I appreciate the comments from Jen Reichert and others that I agree with wholeheartedly about the importance of a presence of first responders in our community. I think it does create a sense of safety to see people that know us and who we know in our community, which is why we voted the last time to preserve the volunteer fire department. Now, I realize that people have differing opinions about the effect that something like that is going to take on our community. None of us have a crystal ball. My opinion is of that I would hope that professional volunteer firefighters serving alongside with paid professional volunteer firefighters would strengthen our volunteer fire department. They're all professional, paid and volunteer. That's what I'm saying. I would hope that that decision that we took last time would strengthen our volunteer fire department. I don't know that that would happen. I'm not in fire. I've never been in public service in that sense, only in this capacity in public safety, but I just want to go on the record because I often don't speak in these meetings. We have a lot of conversations behind closed doors, and thank you, Mayor, for letting me speak this evening.
Okay.
Could I say a couple more
Go
things?
ahead.
It's true that we do have $1 million surplus in the village of Peoria Heights, and it's amazing that we have achieved that over the last few years. Unfortunately, even though $1 million is a significant amount of money, it is not going to address water infrastructure and fire. Unfortunately, I wish it would. We pay a tremendous amount of attention to water as well, and the investment that's coming down the pike for water is very substantial. So the decision that's in front of all of us is safety, preservation of our identity, and how to pay for it. And I just want to be very clear that it's not easy to make that decision. I think that's there's one last thing that I hear talked about a lot, about the criticism of Peoria and their pensions. And that is a heavy load that Peoria has to bear, and I will never vote to take on pension debt for the village of Peoria Heights. So that's something else that we have to take into consideration. When we voted to address the comment that just came my direction last time, the vote wasn't on full or part-time paid positions. If we have part-time paid positions, we don't have to take on pension debt, and that decision has not yet been made. But if we take on many full-time paid positions, we will have significant pension debt. So that's another item that's in front of us. I think that's everything that I had to say this evening, and thank you for letting me communicate that.
Thank you. Anyone else on that? Okay, any other old business? All right, let's get into new business. The first is under Economic Development. Approval of Ordinance 2023-1707, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of the BDD No. 1 redevelopment agreement by and between the Village of Peoria Heights and Hugh Higgins doing business as Hearth Restaurant. Trustee Kazam would ask for motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, go ahead, Trustee Kazam.
This is a request by Hugh Higgins, the owner of Hearth Restaurant, to use some BDD funds. The total investment will be $3,000. He's doing exterior improvements to his business, including an awning, and this, the total amount, or not to exceed the amount of $2,812 from our DDD funds.
Questions? Oh, Hugh, I didn't see you back there. Come forward, please. Please tell us what you have in mind here, what you're going to do.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the trustees. Yes, 4604 Prospect, formerly French Toast, now Hearth Restaurant, soon to be 10 years now. So yes, we're doing a lot of work inside, outside, in light of our 10th anniversary. But I put a new awning on 10 years ago, and as many times as I scrub it, it can only be scrubbed so many times, and it doesn't look like it used to, that's for sure. So yeah, we just repainted the front and the trim, put water fountain features out front. You see me plant $1,000 worth of plants every year. I'll continue to do it. I take care of half a block worth of plants because I think it's a beautiful block, and I'd love to have a new awning to make the front of my building look even better.
Thank you. Any other questions for Hugh?
Hugh, my question is, can you come do the flowers on my block?
Well, I do about half my block. Where's yours? Yeah, I'll gladly help.
All right. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Goff?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
All right, that passes. Good luck.
Good. Thanks very much.
Anything else under economic development?
That's everything, Mayor.
Wayne, anything you have? I know today I saw some information on the METAC grant. Any updates on that?
METAC grant, yeah, that's the HUD, Healthy Homes Program grant. So we're in the process of reviewing applications that we'll take from homeowners in the Heights in certain areas, probably concentrating in the southwest part of the Heights, because that's maybe where most need is, up to 15 homes. So just be aware, resident of that area, we will be soliciting for applications probably before the end of the year. We're going to take some time with this and make sure we get things right and solicit homes for this application. Probably most of the construction and assessment of the homes will take place next year. So that's the Healthy Homes Program.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to public safety. The first is approval of street closure of the 1200 block of Kingman Avenue and the 4900 block of Prospect Road from Glen Avenue to Kingman Avenue. In Trustee Wigginton's absence, would someone else move to approve that, please?
Go ahead.
So I move to approve street closure of 1200 block of Kingman Avenue and 4900 block of Prospect Road from Glen to Kingman Avenue.
Second.
All right. Chief Sutton.
I see Barb and Teresa here. They're requesting to close a portion of Prospect and Kingman here for the 125th, so if you'd like to come up.
Hi, Barb Malacio, 510 West Wolf Road. I'm also representation of Exhibit A Gallery at 4607 North Prospect Road. Teresa and I are here on behalf of the Peoria Heights Chamber of Commerce. We are spearheading the 125th celebration of the Village of the Incorporation of Peoria Heights, and our request is for the street closure that will house an amusement portion of the festivities that we have planned for our village celebration.
Questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Goff?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
All right, that passes.
Very good, thank
Want to
you.
give us an update, since people are here tonight, on the celebration, please?
Yes, since you're all here, the 125th is kicking off with the Taste of the Heights on September 7th, and then the 8th and 9th, we're going to have an artisan market, carnival, amusement area, and then November 11th at Peoria Country Club, we're having another celebration. And since you're all here, we need volunteers. We want you all to come. We want you to be involved. So Peoria Heights Chamber of Commerce at gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, and please get involved.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on public safety? Okay. We be at miscellaneous business. Any miscellaneous?
I actually do, Mayor. In our last meeting, I know the Discover Peoria issue was brought up again, and I did say that our meeting was today. I misspoke on that at our last meeting, and our Discover Peoria meeting update is next Tuesday. So Trustee Kazam, myself, and Clerk Whitrock will be meeting with Discover Peoria. I plan to address the issue again, and because I have told them we would like things removed off that. And then at our next meeting, I will be ready to give an update on the last quarter that we've had with them, if you have time to put that on there.
Yeah. Will you just remind Sarah or myself or Stephanie to get that
I
on
would
the
love
agenda,
that.
please? Okay. Any other miscellaneous?
I got something, Mayor. I couldn't sleep the other night and was going through our village code. We still have, penalties for marijuana possession. Is that something that's just legacy from before it was legalized?
Correct.
Okay. Are we going to remove that from the code at some point, or?
Yeah, we will.
Okay. I don't do marijuana, but I was, like I said, I was just reading through the code, and I saw that we still have penalties on the books for smoking marijuana.
Local ordinance, correct.
Would you like that on the agenda?
Yeah, I think if it's legal, I don't think we should have an ordinance against it. I was surprised that it was there.
There's still stipulations where it is legal as far as, so, yeah.
I just found it odd.
All right.
Okay, so if you would make a note to put that on the agenda as well.
Got it.
Any other miscellaneous?
What car you drive?
Any other miscellaneous? All right, Trustee Gett.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.